There they are.
Hello, Dr. E. How are you, sir?
Hi, Dr. Haidar. I'm good. Thank you for welcoming me on your podcast. I'm excited to spend some time with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I mean, I've heard many kind of nicknames about you. So we've got Dr. E, right? What's this with Dr. E? You know, it sounds very snazzy and cool. I mean, you're a cool guy anyway. I mean, you just need to look at you and you look cool, you know?
Dr. E, yeah. I mean, my surname starts with E, says Enayat, and just making it easier for my patients, just like Dr. E. I like Dr.E. When I grew up, I liked his 2001 album, and I think I drew some inspiration from there. And yeah, just make it easier for patients, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, my name's Al-Hakim. I kind of chop the Al out and say my name's Dr. Hakim, but I might just take a bit of your dry advice and call myself Dr. H.
I like it. It's got a nice ring to it.
Why not? Dr. H, yes. And then, you know, if they want me to elaborate, then I can elaborate.
You could be Dr. H2.
H2. And then in the end I say, oh,
H2O. That could be your brand, a new brand.
Yeah.
H2O.
Well, I mean, I used to be called the Third Eye Doctor.
Why used to?
I dropped it.
No?
I dropped it.
Why did you drop it?
I don't know. I think I've gone back to my surname. I quite like my surname.
It's a beautiful surname. Beautiful name.
I mean, I was seeing a analyst at the time, and I was sort of going down into my sort of dreams and sort of all these fantasies and sort of psychic entities. And I thought, yeah, let's go back to my roots, so to speak. So I started delving into, you know, Al-Hakim, and it just felt right to sort of drop the alias, and go with the, you know, the history, my history.
I like it. The Third Eye Doctor. It's and obviously your name as well. Maybe you're getting into your root chakra.
Yeah, mate. My root chakra is pretty long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long chakra. What got you started in this? I mean, you know, it's not very like, you know, GP land
conventional
kind of
medicine,
space.
Yeah. I think my eye is open to applying science in treating or preventing or optimizing biology when I did my BSc in stem cells. I did an integrated BSc at that time, and my thesis was all around the stem cell industry. This is 2007, and then I just, you know, read, met, and, you know, why are we not talking about delivering care in this way? Then thereafter, you know, finished my training as a GP, and during that time I did a fellowship in clinical leadership, and that afforded me some time to look at how to drive innovations into the health system sooner. I think those experiences, and I looked at telemedicine in particular. I also did a project with patients in self-management, helping develop expert patients to teach other patients how to manage their conditions, which just fell outside of what we would learn in textbooks. And it helped me question the way we deliver medicine, in the kind of algorithms and patterns of care, starting from symptoms to testing to management routines, and allowed me to just, you know, go investigate the world and just see what's happening in the US, what's happening in Germany and Austria, Japan. I looked at as well in terms of interesting models and ways of approaching health. And started to practice them with patients, you know, be mentored by some of these experts globally, and apply them to patients, you know, private patients that I was looking after. and then just getting results, and you're like, wow, like this is phenomenal, this is really, really interesting. And then just doubled down my efforts to try and build a model of care around these innovative practices, which ultimately just apply science, less around disease state, but more around the processes that produce health at any given moment. And I think I remember before COVID, it was like pushing water uphill, talking to people about being healthier. They said, no, I'm healthy. What do you mean? But since COVID, it's been an eye opener for everyone, really, just to help people understand that the traditional healthcare system may not have the answers to being healthy. Definitely for kind of managing sickness and managing disease-orientated symptoms based around organ structure. It has many of the answers. However, for preventing disease, remaining healthy, or becoming healthier, I think the traditional health system hasn't trained doctors and health practitioners in that model of care. And so we launched Human, rebranded, and decided to launch a new brand called Human. Instead of the A, it's got the number 2, because I wanted to create a brand that helps people quickly understand what we're doing, and to be more accessible to the younger generation, who ultimately will be the future, the next set of patients who'll need to engage with health. And it's been really good. It's been really good. We've got now, I'm blessed to have in our team, we've got 3 other physicians in the team, one a psychiatrist, one a GP, one sports exercise medicine. And then alongside us, we have nutritional therapists of different levels of experience, as well as kind of now we're introducing physiotherapy, strength and conditioning, breath coaches. And so it's been really, really nice. When patients come into the model, they often they experience their health differently, and then they start to ask you about, hey, do you have any ideas about ABC? And you become, almost like you would as a GP. You'd get asked about other symptoms and you'd refer on. However, it's really cool that we're building a community of patients that then trust us, having experienced health differently, to then want to kind of continue working in this proactive way.
And in terms of the training that you did in GP, was there anything there that really caught your eye and that you were really impressed with and thought to yourself, this is something I can hold on to going forward?
100%. Yeah, I mean, everything we do is rooted in that clinical experience of training that we had. And I don't think you can really treat or prevent, be in the realm of delivering healthcare if you haven't worked in a traditional healthcare system and you haven't seen the in my opinion. And so everything we do is rooted in traditional medicine, but then we also bring inside kind of more preventative, personalized medicine, looking at different sets of data points alongside traditional medical testing.
And do you think we're getting sicker? And if we are, where would you point your superhuman abilities at? What is the main reason why, if we are getting sicker or not?
I think we're definitely getting more inflamed. Inflammation is the new currency of healthcare, in my opinion. We look back at the 90s and it was all about lipidology and reducing heart attacks and strokes. And then 2000s became about metabolism, diabetes, blood sugar control, glycemic control. I think now with COVID, we're in the realm of inflammation, and we're seeing the rise of autoimmune conditions, particularly in urban societies. And for the first time, a decrease in life expectancy. in the developed world, and we have to kind of try and understand that, you know, why are we seeing more inflammation, and it's a really interesting topic, and we think that we are seeing more inflammation. What is inflammation as a starting point? It's a it's your immune system hyperactive. It's part of your immune response, and it's an overactivated immune response. And what is our immune response there? Immune system, therefore, is to protect us from things that we find foreign. So viruses, bacteria, pathogens, fungi, parasites, heavy metals, and we're seeing more exposure to that. That's the one element. And then the second element is what contributes to a healthy immune system? What are the conditions that make an immune system healthy? And it comes from your nutrition, the health of your digestive tract, how you manage stress and stress response. So important, because that directly impacts your levels of cortisol. Then that keeps your blood sugar up. We know that insulin will then go up, and you can start to develop insulin resistance. And insulin is one of the most pro-inflammatory molecules in our body. And so we can start to see how things are related. And if we think about our environment, how that's changed, it's become remarkably more stressful. We're stimulated so much more by our environment, WhatsApp, email, we're constantly in contact. And each time that pings us, that wakes us up biologically, our adrenal glands produce more cortisol as a response. And we're seeing that a lot. We see that pretty much with every patient we work with, some level of hypothalamic pituitary adrenal dysfunction, and that correlates to your thyroid, eventually thyroid dysfunction as well. So, especially in urban environments, I think that's not really spoken about enough. Managing our stress response and looking at our environment to allow our body to go into a resting healing state, parasympathetic state, to allow us to get deep sleep, and we start to look at sleep as well and say, when is it that our T cells, for example, are produced? They're produced in deep sleep, not in our light or REM sleep. When is our stem cells produced from our bone marrow? It's in deep sleep. And so we know that if we're not getting into deep sleep, we're not self-healing, self-restoring, self-balancing as we're designed to. And so there are a bunch of things that we can do to help us regulate a healthier immune response. And also now there's testing that can identify where you're at with the other elements of your immune response, not just your breakdown of your white cells and do you have high eosinophils or basophils or monocytes, but let's go a bit deeper and look at the other conditions that indirectly relate to a healthy or an unhealthy immune system. And it was, this type of medicine, has different names, called functional medicine in the US or integrative medicine elsewhere. But and when immune conditions like autoimmune thyroiditis and eczema, and just seeing how much they responded, their antibodies decreased, the anti-TPO antibodies started to decrease. The eczema patient in his mid-30s, and I remember it very well because he's got the same first and middle name as me, Mohammed Shazad, and he was, he was mid-30s at the time. He had a couple of children, and within a few months, his eczema was remarkably better, and he'd been to all of the dermatologists. He'd been in and out of the traditional health system for years. And eczema can be really debilitating, chronic eczema, because your skin is just on fire. You're ripping your skin off. It gets then infected, and you're in this circle of antibiotics, steroids. And to see him get remarkably better, it was amazing. It's the kind of thing as a GP you work for, right? That's and it's not complicated. It really isn't that complicated. It's just about looking at the human body in a slightly different way. Looking at where are the sources of inflammatory, where are we, where could we be driving an inflammatory response, and one of the most externally facing membranes that we have, that's only one cell thick, is our GI tract, starting at our mouth all the way down. That's actually an externally facing membrane. They're designed to take nutrients out. But if that starts to become more porous or not functioning optimally, then whole foods can start going things that, your defense mechanisms, your microbiome, that's one of your first lines of defense, which is your population of bacteria in your digestive tract. If they become imbalanced, then our defense mechanisms allow things in. If whole foods aren't digested properly enough, they break into our bloodstream and they drive antibodies. Those antibodies, one of the big theories in this type of medicine of autoimmunity is that whole foods, without being broken down, start to drive a sensitivity reaction. IgG antibodies are produced, and those antibodies float around your bloodstream, can aggregate in certain organs, and then cause, for example, Hashimoto's thyroiditis or eczema in the skin, or rheumatoid arthritis in the joints. So yeah, that can be treated or supported fairly straightforward if you're just looking in the right places with the right tests and have the right tools to support that.
Could you give us examples of how these things can be treated? Because you make it sound quite nice and simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's so let's talk about, for example, you've got leaky gut, and you're driving antibodies, you're creating antibodies to gluten, right? Or dairy. And so you might have some mild symptoms, maybe not. You might have some bloating, digestive issues that we just day to day think are normal. And you would treat that by excluding those from your, or first, you can empirically treat without testing. You can try doing an elimination diet. It's very difficult to do, just because you eliminate so many foods, but you can do that. That's an approach that works, but it just means that you have to be very strict. Or you can do an actual blood test, identify that you're driving antibodies in your blood, then remove those particular foods, use some targeted supplementation, things like L-glutamine on an empty stomach, digestive enzymes, pre-meals to help break down the foods and make absorption easier, and a probiotic if your gut flora is to restore a healthy gut flora. You won't need to use that forever. We do a 6-week program of gut healing, utilizing that, and then supported by a nutrition strategy, which is usually dairy and bread free for 4 to 6 weeks. And people will notice a massive improvement just from that. Now the starting point dictates the ending point, right? So if someone's got really high antibodies, you might need to be doing that for a bit longer, be a bit stricter. So those, so that's something that can be done from fairly straightforward. Other kind of other interesting therapies that we also do therapies like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, high pressure oxygen therapy. Very interesting. The nutrients, IV laser therapy, and we introduced something called NAD plus therapy as well, and getting really, really nice results. And none of this is foreign to the human body. Oxygen is not foreign. Giving you vitamins, minerals, amino acids, that's not foreign. But it's just being provided to you in a bioavailable form. And therapies, the way I see those therapies, they're supportive, they're adjunctive to the mainstay, which is you becoming more conscious of your body, and putting the right things in and conditioning your environment to help you change, ultimately how you feel.
Where does the mind come into this, or the psychology of health or preventing disease? I mean that's a big question, obviously.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we get different types of kind of mindsets to health. People come to us for different reasons. One mindset is that they're fatigued from the traditional health system, and where they're not getting the answers, they're not getting better. And then you get others that are, another mindset is we see our health as an asset. It's absolutely critical to our performance in work or in their career, so athletes or high performers. And that's the two that we're seeing right now. And everyone else is, we try and help them understand that you can look at health differently, but providing a cool space, like you see the picture in the background, that's our clinic, and cool experiencing a change of state, to meeting them where they're at, you know. So everyone else might, if you don't have a disease and you're not looking to use your body for optimal performance, and then everyone else fits into that, which I think is a majority of the population, you know, then it's about educating them around like how you can change your state, you know, allowing them to appreciate they can, you know, if they want better cognition or if they want to sleep better, just giving them the experiences. And once you experience a change of state, then you're like, wow, I didn't realize I feel better just from doing ABC, you know, and then it opens your eyes. But the mind is sorry.
I was going to say, it looks like you got a black hole there behind you. So they go into a black hole of optimum health and human 2.0 experience.
Yeah, and they come out of that.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, coming out of a black hole is kind of pretty much impossible, apparently, theoretically.
Yeah, not in Chelsea.
What's it like in Chelsea now? You know, I haven't been there for ages.
It was a ghost town for most of COVID. You know, it's been a ghost town. A lot of, you know, there's a lot of people that live in Chelsea. They also have a second residence outside of Chelsea, maybe in the country or out in other countries, and so it was remarkably quiet for a good 18 months. And now it's picking back up. People are moving back in. You know, the kids' schools are open again, and so people are back in town. Yeah, it's you know, it's allowed me and afforded us to kind of innovate. You know, to recruit clients that ultimately can pay for these services. And over the last kind of 5 to 7 years has allowed me to then create systems internally to drive down the prices and to democratize this more and more. Because any innovation initially is expensive, right? And so, you know, it's a blessing to be there in many ways. And we've been, you know, we're committed to trying to democratize that through in-house education programs for our practitioners, so that, you know, it's not just the Dr.E clinic and you're just seeing, you know, limited to the number of patients I can see. You know, we have a team now that can deliver this, and that allows us to drive the prices down really, and recruit, and there is demand, you know, in just every other for this, I heard about it, and that's like it just gives me more impetus to try and, like, you know, get this messaging out there and help people understand about this black hole for them. You know, this blind spot, ultimately, this unknown that they can take control of their health. You know, and the mind thing is really fascinating to me, and we've got a psychiatrist in the team for that reason. You know, practicing integrated psychiatry, and the biology and the mind is really connected. However, I find that once, you know, as people go through this and they're seeing data points coming from their health wearable, they're understanding the internal stress response, they're learning tools to help them prevent the sequelae of anxiety by intervening earlier through things like power of breath or sleep or recovery. Obviously, that doesn't help everyone, depends how progressed someone is with their symptomatology. But it definitely allows people to kind of just get out of that stress response into some more clarity for them. We have a clinical hypnotherapist who helps some patients with emotional freedom techniques from time to time. And so, you know, with the rise of mental health, and I only see that rising, you know, and I'm sure you have seen it rise a lot as well. I feel like we need to be helping people from the biological perspective alongside the mind as well, together in an integrated way.
Yeah. You know, there's no separation whatsoever, and I think all healthcare professionals that deliver healthcare needs to have a good understanding of the mental processes, the psychological processes, and the importance of how much of an effect it has on our biology, as you said. Now, you know, the black hole can be, you know, quite a scary place. I mean, I've been through that black hole once, and you know, it was quite an experience. What's your kind of most enjoyable device after going through that black hole that you think everyone has to try?
I think I think as the experience of everyone having to try it once, that's going to give you a real quick change of state, is the cryotherapy. Within 3 minutes, you know, you're going to feel so different coming out of that. So I think the whole body cryotherapy is my favorite. We have the coldest one in the world. It goes down to minus 140 Celsius. You're in there for 3 minutes. You start at about, you know, everyone starts slightly different, maybe minus 100. But there's an element of fear that you need to overcome. You'll get to learn your physiological reflexes and be able to learn how to master them through just being present in the moment and knowing and having faith that your body can withstand this. And then you've got all the physiological effects, the release of endorphins, the metabolic shifts. You know, through the need to create heat to bring your skin temperature back up, you use 500 to 700 calories. You have a hormonal shift. You produce kind of growth hormone and testosterone. People just leave feeling happier, lighter. You have this muscular skeletal benefit where you just feel, you know, looser. And so that's a really nice change of state experience there. And then I think my absolute favorite is the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and I would love to see that more prevalent in throughout and more accessible for everyone. I feel like the science is there, the evidence is there, and the massively growing evidence base in state optimization and prevention, not just disease management. And I feel like it should just be a lot more accessible.
Where do you think the barriers are in making this mainstream and sort of, you know, making it more open to the wider population?
It comes down to how we design and deliver care. Option of innovation model, right? So the evidence-based model. So if we're talking about, let's start with the evidence-based model. So the evidence-based model in medicine is based around disease. We uptake innovations that are, you know, that have strong, rigorous evidence according to a framework of how we look at evidence. So if we're looking in the wrong way, we're not going to be able to appreciate the impact of working in this way. So what do I mean by that? We have randomized controlled trials. We do, you know, double-blind placebo. That works really well for disease state and pathology. Me and you have a condition. I get drug A, you get drug B. I get better. We try that at bigger scale. Whereas me and you don't have a condition, especially in the way we classify symptoms. So that's another starting point that we need to look at, is having a new or an earlier stage of symptoms that we actually classify according to patterns of imbalances rather than organ pathology, right, or states of disease. So an example of that is symptoms of adrenal dysfunction, as just something that comes to my mind. So you take a long time to wake up in the morning and you stay awake late at night. That's a sign that your cortisol is not coming down in the evening as it should. Is a sign of that. Now, we're not taught about that as a symptom to look for in traditional medicine. So if we're now looking for that, we reclassify that as as an example. There's a whole bunch of symptoms you look at, and reclassify them according to patterns or imbalances. Then we can start to look at potential therapeutics that will treat that. So starting at the definition of health, I think, health is not just an absence of disease. And that's when it's treated as an absence of disease, we're looking to drive healthcare forward through treating disease according to the classification of symptoms that fall under disease. If we start to redefine health as a state of vitality, an optimal state of performance, which I would say is in our late 20s or early 30s, from a cellular regenerative perspective anyway. Obviously, there's learned acumen that we get over time and knowledge and wisdom. So aside from that, talk about physical performance, then we can then start to look at the processes that produce that state, and then imbalances that can go off sooner, and then attach data points to those processes, right? And then signs and symptoms, and then therapeutics. And that's how we should be looking at evidence-based. And it's more challenging because it's not as linear as disease in terms of you have a disease and you stop having those disease. It's more multifactorial, it's more interconnected. It's looking at how your hormones are connected to your digestive tract, to your bit of epigenetics, and et cetera, micronutrient status, as well as your environment, which is how you eat, move, sleep, stress. But with the evolution of technology, I think we're at a point where we can look at more data points, and we can reverse engineer data through AI to really test those hypotheses, and then to tell us if those hypotheses are correct, and thereafter help speed up the adoption of innovations into preventative and personalized health. And
in terms of a time frame, because it sounds complicated, because when we did medicine, it was reductionist and also compartmentalized into systems, and yet it was complicated just using those systems, particularly neurological systems. I found that the most difficult topic to kind of grasp.
Yeah.
I'm an ophthalmologist now, which is a bit of an oxymoron because people consider ophthalmology a bit complicated. But I guess when you have to, as in if you have to learn the complexities, you have to learn the complexities. So you think the computation power that we have through AI is enough for us to bring all these different data sets together and allow us to optimize our health through these sort of different systems that come together? I find that sort of disease is sort of much more easier to put into abstract. I don't know.
I think that's just because we're taught, and we spent many years learning that, right? Like, it didn't happen overnight. That happened over a long period, starting in school, really. Biology and stuff, and A levels and chemistry, but then really going deep into it in medical school. Look, it's not. I don't have all the answers. However, having practiced this type of medicine now for about 6-7 years, I can assure you it's not complicated. It's just looking at different sets of symptoms and different sets of patterns in your testing, and then applying different sets of therapies or interventions. And I think I see it best sitting probably within general medicine or or primary care as a subspecialty, really, called personalized medicine. I think that's probably the best way to put it. And it's very trainable. We're training other doctors to deliver it and other healthcare practitioners as a team to deliver it. And we're not the only ones. There are other models of this type of care in the US, particularly, that are kind of integrating this personalized medicine with health coaching or nutrition, and or nutrition, with getting great results as well. So I think there's an opportunity to kind of collect all of those data points from similar sorts of institutes and clinics, and centers and physicians, and start to use machine learning to produce evidence that can overcome our inherent bias in the way we're looking at health, because otherwise we're looking at it from a retrospective analysis of a wide population. That's where we fall into public health, and that's why public health will come out and say, oh, smoking's bad and eat 5 fruits a day, and it's very kind of very, very bland. It's not personalized. It's not specific to a person in front of them. So if we leave it to that approach, we're just never going to make headway into this.
And do you think the in terms of coming into the education system, the medical education system, what's your experience of that? Is it sort of are they accommodating, or are there lots of barriers sort of in front of you, or are there other competitive entities that sort of don't allow you to
be honest,
to enter their space?
To be honest, I haven't had the time. I haven't had the time. We're trying to establish this type of model of care and the systems to deliver this, to train internally, and we're a self-funded company. We've grown to our capacity, and we have to balance the ability to recruit patients versus the ability to deliver services. We don't have spare resource or capacity to apply a PhD or someone to work on this project or get a grant. We just don't have that yet. And however, having said that, there is appetite. On our advisory board, we have professors within the traditional health system that can see the applicability of this, and it's just about being able to engineer for us, for our business, engineer the routes to be able to get this in front of the right people who are then vested to be able to support driving this into the health system. And the biggest barrier is going to be data and evidence, right? I think that's why our focus is all our patients go through a consent process to allow us to anonymously use this for scientific purposes. And then we have a data lake. So we have a lake of data that we will be then hopefully passing on to universities. Evidence. Once we've got that, then we've got an large enough data set of patients to say that actually 80 or 90% felt better across A, B, C, D, E parameters. These test markers improved. Then we have something strong to go back to the health system. Hey, listen, this is what we've been doing, and this is how we've done it. Let's help us kind of learn more from it and influence the delivery and education model in the future. That's my current thoughts. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But that's where our intention is at, and that's why within our mission statement, our mission statement is helping pioneer a new era of healthcare for the benefit of humanity. It's not about providing, and that's it. And so for us, it's not about providing luxury care to luxury people that can only afford these innovations. It's about innovating, having innovated with them, then driving those down through models of care and systems, as I've mentioned, to help democratize this not just internally with us, but then through the evidence-based approach.
And
so,
I mean, I'm going to push you a bit further. I mean, sort of 5 years down the line, where do you see, you know, this personalized medical care or personalized health information and processes, or lifestyle medicine, or you know, biohacking, or sort of vitality driven services? Where do you see yourself and sort of this whole industry in the next sort of in 5 years time?
Where do we see us in that industry? You know, I don't think there's many physician-led businesses or services delivering this type of care in the UK particularly. And I know that there is it's not easy to set up, to recruit clients into it, and it's not easy to become, I mean, you can't just do a course and then deliver this, you know, it's not, you need learned expertise over time. And so I see us being able to support the development of other practitioners that want to deliver this type of care. And we want to be supporting to drive this type of healthcare out there. And we've spent all that time and effort building the systems in-house, building out the kind of understanding of what tests to do, how to interpret them, what patterns to look for, what supplements to use, what therapies to use. And we hope to be continuing to drive in innovations, to test them, as well as help the support and provide an environment where other practitioners can practice this type of medicine while we, as a business, recruit more patients into this model of care. So I don't know, that's our intention. But you know, life gets in the way, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And you know, is there a thirst for this here in the UK? You know, given that the UK is a you know, an attractor of many industries and many individuals, and you know, many different markets.
I think there is. I think there's a growing thirst. There's a really growing thirst. I think our expectations on the NHS are too much, and I think we understand that now as a society, and we understand that the NHS isn't necessarily, you know, I remember when I was doing my junior house officer years, the waiting times were down to 4 hours in the A&E, you know, and that was a big thing. You know, they were trying to drive it down, they managed to do it, and now they're, you know, 10, 12, they've removed that type, you know, and it's reflective on supply and demand. You know, the way demand's increased, but also, you know, there has been the working environment has been tougher for healthcare practitioners, and that's from government. It's from the commissioners, the NHS, you know, from the political, ultimately the government who pay for it, you know, and so it's been, and I'd like to ask you, you know, how has it been for you over the last 5?
Very, very difficult. Yeah. You know, as you said, yeah, I mean, as you said, sort of NHS wise, the demands are exceptionally high, and the expectations are still high. You know, it's not as if their expectations have gone down, or, you know, you've managed to lower your standards. And also doctors are coming under increased scrutiny from everyone, whether it's regulators, whether it's commissioners, whether it's patient pressure groups. So, you know, there is this constant pressure to deliver high quality care with minimal resources and minimal funding. And you know, that's why we're all cracking by the seams, and you know, the water's leaking in very quickly, and people are moving elsewhere. You know, people are moving
really
into
sad, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know, this is the times. You know, this is the current times, and Yeah, so we're definitely going to have a fragmented healthcare service, definitely. And then there's going to be good practices and bad practices. And there's going to be systems that work and systems that don't work. So that's going to be tricky about what's going to happen to the general population. But I think showing an alternative vision of health, I think, is a great alternative. And, you know, if that can be driven into a wider population, I think, you know, that's going to give a lot of benefit to all.
Yeah, and
I mean,
I remember. Sorry, I
no,
remember
I mean,
when I
as
was
I
doing it.
was, no, you,
Okay.
you know, you carry on.
I was just going to remember your thought because I would love to hear it. Sorry for interrupting. I just remember doing my DrE fellowship, and that's kind of a fellowship in leadership and management, and working with an academic health science network, UCL partners at the time, and driving an innovation in simple innovation in, and it would have meant better access for adolescent diabetics into that hospital that we worked with just by introducing telemedicine consultations now, which are very normal. However, the consultants and the staff there were reticent because that time was needed to work on other stuff, that the kind of non-attendance time. It's just a simple thing. And I think that, you know, in a health system where we're not giving enough power, the power is the wrong word, but not giving enough freedom to people that, you know, the physicians and the healthcare practitioners on the ground seeing the patients to design the service around their patients, you know, we're just not able to bring innovations in. You know, we don't give them freedom to go and try test how we want to try things out. And it's a shame. It's a shame because, you know, we're all remarkably intelligent people as physicians and healthcare practitioners, and our hearts are in the right place. That's why we often become caregivers, and to not allow us to kind of trial and adopt innovations or deliver care in the best way that we think is possible for our patients, and is harming the health system big time, and harming ultimately counterintuitive to long-term care of our patients, who then get more problems coming up. You know, and this was show, you know, this has been shown to me multiple times, but even during COVID, when COVID came out, and, you know, speaking to, you know, I've reached out to the CEO of Chelsea West, the local hospital, and I was like, look, you know, let's get some of this with things like hyperbaric IVs, and we're happy to do it for free. This was right at the beginning of the crisis, and initially they were interested, and then it went to their board, and they were like, you know, it just went quiet. And none of this is like, this is just core science, you know, like, and when doctors understand that, and doctors do understand that, there's no risks, it's very safe, why not give it a go? It was just one of the examples. And the other example COVID really showed me was I was from a community, and people in the community would reach out to me when their members were sick in hospital, and it was just, and I'd be, you know, on their behalf speaking to physicians in different hospitals, and how we were hiding behind this evidence-based approach at a time of COVID when there was no evidence around what was the best practice early on, and we just didn't rely on, you know, we didn't feel confident prescribing oxygen soon enough, or, you know, giving antibiotics or giving steroids to calm an inflammatory response down, you know, just, and speaking to GPs, like, you know, why are we devolving the responsibility to call centers to decide if someone's sick enough to go into hospital? You know, the GPs weren't confident to try things like hydroxychloroquine, low dose, not the high dose that had complicated, low dose, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, you know, early in the stage, just from a basic understanding of how they support a healthy immune system. And it just really alarmed me that we're conditioning and grooming, who are we training as physicians that
truly feel confident to look after that whole patient. You know, where GPs are being trained to be triage, you know, to triage into ongoing specialties, but excellent in managing some chronic conditions like, you know, high blood pressure and diabetes and stuff like that. But where conditioning, we create the kind of the restrictions on our physicians to think about the whole patient in front of them, to give them confidence to try things out with them. And that's sad, you know, because that's a huge loss of talent, effectively, you know, a huge loss of intellect, because, you know, we're all remarkably intelligent. We work towards building the skills to apply science, and it's a shame that we're not given the freedom to try that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the big mistakes I think is introducing quangos like NICE and sort of all these other big organizations that, you know, to be honest with you, don't have much science behind what they talk about, because it's driven politically and financially by bigger forces.
It's we don't know, right? But you know, it's something that,
I mean, you've got
we have a feeling about.
I mean, you've got a patient. I mean, for example, you got a patient and they got high pressures in the eye. And do you know in yourself that they're not going to get glaucoma from your experience? Yet NICE says you got to treat them with A, B, C, and D. And then you sit there and you got to think to yourself, right, do I do what my gut feeling tells me, which is actually they're okay, and my experience,
yeah.
and they're okay, or do I follow the NICE guidelines, don't get summoned in front of the GMC for not following the GMC guidelines because, you know, the patient is a bit more clued up, and, you know, I don't know. So, you know, that's the kind of pressure that a lot of healthcare professionals are under. And by the looks of it, you know, previously the GMC did say that they're not, you know, going to put doctors in trouble or in jeopardy for, you know, because of the COVID situation, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's business as usual, you know, if they feel that you've been lacking in any way, whether it's COVID or not COVID, they'll go after you. So
we become like, you know, the other element is that we become fiercely protective within our specialties. You know, we become fiercely, because we're always conscious that, okay, if this is passed on to another specialty or GPs are managing this, we're going to lose our income, and we don't integrate well as teams, you know, as care teams. And I think part of that is because we have such a rigid, and it's unnecessary, you know, training program. You know, a lot of it's necessary because experience is really important. However, that's something we need to start kind of thinking about, is like, how do we build more flexibility into that kind of model? I don't know. That's just something.
Where did your interest in engineering come? Because you use a lot of engineering terminology and ideas.
I think I just I think it's from Meccano. I used to play with a lot of Meccano sets when I was younger. Right. Yeah, I used to have a lot of Meccano sets. So I think it's from there, and just and I used to love cars, and still, you know, kind of, and just the concept of engineering, from looking at processes to produce A, B, C as an output.
Yeah, I mean, we like to give answers to our patients, and that's what engineers do. They build things in order to give solutions and answers to the problem at hand.
And doctors are kind of engineers, right?
Yeah, we are engineers. Yeah. You know, we are engineers really, because you know, we don't talk about the meaning of things and, you know, the underlying reasons why things happen. You know, we just like to solve problems, I guess. And you know, what's this about Harry Potter? I mean, are you a Harry Potter fan? Because everyone talks about you being the Harry Potter of medicine. You know,
I've never heard that. Never ever heard that. Is that something you just made up?
No, no. I mean, you were interviewed by another surgeon, and he's talking about Harry Potter all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard that before. Where's my glasses? No, I've got some brown glasses inspired by Harry Potter.
Okay.
Possibly why I've not had Harry Potter. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like the GMC are going to be coming knocking soon.
Well, you know, you've got lots of concoctions behind you, so you know that's one thing.
That's true. That's true. We have lots of potions, and you know what we're careful to do is not make claims around diseases. You know, we're not here saying that we can reverse ABC and treat ABC diseases. We're very clear that we're in the realm of fringe symptoms, health and wellness. But yeah, the concoctions is it's herbal medicine. So it's using the power of different herbs to create an engineer, or you know, all drugs do. They upregulate or downregulate certain pathways, and many drugs come from plants. If not all drugs, they come from, you know, a specific ingredient within a herb or a plant or a mushroom, but rather than have just that concentrated synthetic ingredient, have the whole plant or the whole herb, which is a lot healthier. So yeah, we use that as part of the experiencing health. How do you want to experience health? So better mood, better sleep, better energy. Then we have different potions. We call them potions. That we've had herbalists put together, and we trialed and tested them. Like, wow, you know, this actually makes people feel like that, based off, you know, herbal medicine, which has been around for, I don't know.
Yeah, long time, longer than humans, longer than animals, longer than mammals, longer than anything else, and definitely there's a lot more wisdom in, you know, these plants than you know, us walking around and pretending to be wise.
We think, yeah, that's such a good, you know, it's so leveling, isn't it? When this illusion that we're in control, you know, it's when, you know, we're so conditioned by our environment. You know, it's remarkable, you know, the way we think, the way we act, the way we behave, the way our physiology responds to our environment. We're an organism, you know, and an organism that houses billions of other organisms. Just like all organisms, we know that we put them in a certain environment, they adapt to that environment, and we're the same. Like, you know, we've all been there where we're living in a rat race in that London life, and then we go out on holiday and we feel so much better in nature or whatever for a couple of weeks, and we think clearer and we start to behave different, and we let things go and we don't get caught up. It's just a small example.
I mean, when I go back to, you know, when I go back to Iraq, I turn into a crazy Iraqi, you know. Yeah. You know, the
Are you in the
Londoner.
cities there?
Huh?
Are you in the cities there, like Baghdad or?
Yeah, it's and even in Iraq, you know, Baghdad's different from Karbala, different from Najaf, different from Basra. So each one has a different flavor of, you know, Iraqi craziness, but also Iraqi kindness and generosity and welcoming attitudes, of course. So I mean, you know, let's finish with this, Dr.E. You know, if someone, you know, the aliens from Venus, you know, walked into your clinic, you know, what would be the first thing you'd do for them, or sort of what kind of machine would you put them into, or what would you do?
I would if alien came from Venus, I'd be like, how did you get here? Do you have lift? Do you have space for one more? And can I like somehow negotiate a way to come with you? And
more experience.
Sorry?
You know, like a new experience. You want to experience something new.
I would love to go to space one day. I would love to just that's another dream of mine, inshallah, to be able to just get into space, experience the universe as we see it on pictures, and when we look up to the sky more closer.
Yeah, that could be a part of you know, human, you know, sort of the next you know, the next sort of chapter in healthcare delivery is you know, zero gravity and the awe of the universe, and looking at the earth, and you know, the magic of space.
I think there's something there.
Yeah.
We need to, you can help us with that. Let's do it together.
Yeah, let me just call Elon Musk. Oi, mate, sort this guy out. Yeah. All right, my friend. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Andrew, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure we'll do, inshallah, another part 2 at some point. In fact, we're going to be doing a podcast, so human podcast. It would be amazing to have you on. We haven't started, but I think yesterday the team decided that that's something we want to do. So,
yeah, well, I mean, if you want to have me on, you know, that's at your behest, and you know, whatever comes out of my mouth, you know, we'll have, you know, signing liabilities of.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of censorship. No, I'm joking. There won't be.
No, I mean, you know, most of my podcasts that I've given all have the e-sign on it, so you know, rest assured.
Really?
You know, your first one will have an e-sign on it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, my friend. You take care of yourself.
Andrew.